Hey, Bill, what's up?
Tom, you know, the single most powerful tool the American people have was decided by the Supreme Court in Sparf versus United States in 1895, and that is...
You're talking jury nullification.
Yes, I am. And even though lawyers don't like it and judges don't like it, and it's certainly the possibility exists for abuse, we can both agree on that. The reality is what they said in Sparf was, we don't like it, we don't think they should do it, but here's the bottom line. But a jury can nullify a law they believe is unjust and is inviolate. An acquittal is an acquittal. A conviction can be overturned on appeal, by a jury can be overturned on appeal, but an acquittal is done. It's double jeopardy, all that. It's done. And the problem is, I was just looking and reading Sparf while I was listening to your show program, and some of the synopsises they're starting to rewrite the history of this. They're starting to say it doesn't really say that. You really can't. The courts don't like this, and
the courts not only don't like it, Bill, but it pretty much doesn't exist anymore. I mean, if you're in the jury pool and you raise any question at all about jury nullification, you're going to get bounced out. And I don't mean that as a good way to get out of jury duty, because if they think that's why you're saying it, then you might be held in contempt of court as well.
Yeah. No, Tom, what they started to do is they give you a couple of oaths to take. You take the first oath at your Boy Scout oath when you're sworn in as a juror, and then you take a second oath from the judge, basically saying you will go in and deliberate and find the person guilty or innocent based on the facts and the law as explained to the judge and no other consideration. Now, every time I'm called for jury duty, after the orientation, I walk up to the judge and I say, I'm not taking your second oath. I just want to be clear. I will not be taking your oath. That's jury tampering. You have no authority to be giving that oath. I will not respect the oath. I won't take it. Literally within a day, I always get a letter saying, we understand you don't want to serve and you're excused from jury duty. Now I've taken to line. Now I say, you know what, an oath that is null and void at inception is no oath at all. I can take that oath and totally ignore it because they have no right.
No, I get all that, Bill, and I think that on the facts and on the law, you are right. But in terms of the practical application of it, it ain't happening anywhere in the United States. Do you know of a single case in the last couple of decades where a jury has decided that the law under which a person is being prosecuted is a law that they're not going to acknowledge?
I could find you one. That I have read a couple of such cases, and at least one of them, the judge says, I'm going to hold the whole jury in contempt. And all the other judges said, walk away, walk away. You don't want to make this a whole high-profile issue. Because the goal here is to deny the right by obfuscation and basically suppression. And because when they decided in Sparf that the jury has a right to nullification, at the same time they said, but nobody has to inform the jury of this right. And what's happened is the courts have now made it an act of contempt of court to try to inform the jury.
For people who don't have any idea what Bill and I are talking about, the doctrine, as it were, is that and by the way, the philosophical underpinning of this is not that different from Sheriff Mack coming on and saying sheriffs, because they're elected law enforcement officers at a relatively local level, county level, are actually the supreme law enforcement officers of the nation. Because the Republic, small r Republican idea, the idea of Republican government, particularly prior to the Civil War, when we had strong states and a weak federal government, was that power always flows from the bottom up, not the top down, and that a jury is every bit as capable of determining whether, in their opinion, a law is legitimate as they are in determining the guilt or innocence of a person who's been charged with that law. And we've been through this. I've had this conversation with people over the years, Bill, a number of times, and I just don't know. I don't think I don't think that it works anymore.
Yes, it does work. It does work. You can still do it, but because no one knows they have it. But I'm going to synopsize it real simply. I wrote a letter to Judge Benson when he tried to take away this power just a couple of years ago. I wrote him a letter saying basically where to stick it. And I said, here's the problem, Judge. I said, you dispense the law, and I trust you to dispense the law, and I trust you to follow the law, but you have no option, Judge. You have to enforce the law. Juries dispense justice. Big difference.
No, I get it.
That's why juries... Yep.
I know the argument. I absolutely know the argument. And but let's just make sure anybody who's listening who thinks that just bringing up the topic of jury nullification without really knowing what they're talking about is like a slick way to get out of jury duty. It's a great way to get yourself thrown in jail for contempt of court, or to end up on somebody's harassment cycle where you're constantly being called back, because they do not take that lightly at all. I mean, they just do not.